When you're considering purchasing a luxury home, home in the millions of dollars, there are some specific things that you want to consider, some mistakes you really want to avoid. This is a whole different process, a lot of money involved, a lot of emotion involved. And so today I want to go through the 5 mistakes you want to absolutely avoid when purchasing a luxury home. Hey there, I'm John Glutch, and I'm the team leader of the Glutch Group. And thankfully, my team and I have had the privilege of helping many people walk through multi-million-dollar home purchases. And we've learned a lot along the way and got to see how really fun and awesome this process can be, and also figure out a few things that we really ought to avoid. And here's the first thing that you want to make sure you avoid is just searching for homes like you normally would. Turns out lots of these properties are not listed for sale in a conventional way, and you have to do a little digging. And oftentimes these properties trade what we call off market. So this is about relationships, connecting with real estate agents who have sellers who want to sell their property. They call them pocket listings, where we've got clients right now. We have a list, we call it our secret seller list of properties that people want to sell, but they don't want it listed for one reason or another. They're not in a hurry, or they don't want their neighbors to know, or they don't want their company to know. For various reasons, they want to keep it quiet. And that is very common, properties to sell that way, where they never actually get listed. Or maybe it's going to be listed in a week or two, but it's not available quite yet. And you want to be there first, right? You want to learn about these properties before anyone else does. So yes, of course, you want to jump on Zillow and have your real estate agent set up a search for you. That's all really critical. But above and beyond that, there is this whole other market, and much more so in luxury than any other niche, where properties are selling and trading off market. So really important to look for properties in a really different way and in a comprehensive way. Really beat the ground for those. My second tip is to make sure that you don't buy the most expensive house on the block. Here's what can be frustrating. You're going to spend, couple million dollars, whatever it is, and you're looking around at properties, and some of them, you're like, why is this $3 million? Like, what's going on? It doesn't feel like it should when you're spending that amount of money. And it can be a little frustrating that the property that you want isn't quite as dialed in, isn't quite as perfect, doesn't have the same features that you would hope it would. And so maybe you stretch a little bit in terms of you go to a neighborhood that you don't like quite as much, or a part of the neighborhood that's not quite as valuable, and you get more features because of that. Like, for example, if you want to buy a property that is on a major street or backing a major street, there's probably going to be a price discount there. You can get more house for your money. But what you don't want to do is end up stuck, right? You buy a property because it's awesome and has all these bells and whistles, but it's tough to sell because it's on a major street. When you have to sell, you're in trouble there. Or you push the value for the neighborhood. You go, well, I'm going to go to this other neighborhood over here where that, what I want to spend buys me a lot more house, but you end up being the most expensive house on the block. You don't want to do that. So it's important to temper your expectations a little bit and go, hey, I want to think about the whole picture here, the value. What if I resell the property? What are the fundamental aspects of the property that are really important to me? Location within the neighborhood, the right schools, all that stuff. It can be a little disheartening to not get exactly what you want when you're spending this kind of money, but it's important to temper your emotions a bit and really think through, what are the most important things? Let me make sure I dial those in. And then we can always fix and adjust and remodel and do the different things down the road that we have to do. All right, the third tip is underestimating upkeep on a luxury home. So my wife and I are lucky enough to live in a really nice house, and we move into our nice house, and we got these Viking appliances and whatever. And a few weeks after moving in, the fridge breaks down, and call the repair guy to get the fridge fixed. And here comes a guy, dressed really sharp in a nice van, and he's got a laptop with him, and he plugs the laptop into the fridge, right? And it's like, uh-oh, this is going to cost a lot of money. Normally the fridge repair guy isn't plugging a laptop into it. But you see that very commonly in these really nice expensive homes, is the appliances are spectacular. I mean, they do stuff, I don't even know how it works. It's incredible, but it's expensive. And you just have to factor that in. And it really starts to add up. The windows are more expensive. The appliances are more expensive. You just go down the list. Anything that breaks is going to cost you 3 times what it would have, especially if you're moving into this scale of home from an area where the parts of the home that you had weren't quite as fancy or intricate. It really does start to add up. It's something you want to consider when you're purchasing a new home. Make sure you don't get surprised by that. The same is true for taxes. Your property taxes are going to be higher. All your upkeep. It's just a bigger home probably. So you've got all the different utilities and things. So you want to make sure you just take that cost into account and make sure you don't get surprised down the road. One of my good friends runs a maintenance business, and it's a concierge business, and they show up every month to people who have multi-million dollar homes to just keep those systems running, and it's expensive. Like, his services are not cheap, thousands of dollars a month in some cases. So you want to keep that in mind. It obviously varies depending on what kind of scale you're talking about, but it's important to keep that in mind as you're purchasing your awesome new luxury home. My fourth thing to make sure you absolutely avoid is hiring an inspector that is not used to inspecting luxury homes. There really is a difference. And again, back to the systems being complicated and unique, you want to make sure you have somebody who understands those systems, who can look at all the various, components of an intricate home entertainment system, for example, or a pool with 50 different features and bells and whistles. That stuff is complicated, and you want to make sure that you don't inherit a big problem. And to make sure you do that, you have to get a great inspector who's used to doing these kind of properties, who's going to take the time required to not just rush through the thing to get to the new house, but to really do a fantastic job. You're not going to want to be surprised. The last thing you want, you move in a new, beautiful, spectacular home and you get all these surprises. So make sure you hire an inspector who's done lots of luxury properties and is really familiar with that niche. All right, fifth and most important, in my opinion, is picking an agent who knows how to sell luxury homes. There really is a difference, and it encapsulates a lot of things I've already talked about. For example, finding the right property is often more legwork than is required with a less expensive home. So a lot of these properties are off market. Your agent's got to have those relationships with the agents who sell. No one agent has a market on any particular niche. And so what you want is an agent who has lots of relationships, who's sold lots of high-end homes and who's familiar with this niche and lives in the parts of town where they're going to have the relationships with the realtors who've done that. That's a really important part of this process. It's great to support, your friend's nephew who just got his real estate license, but you're probably going to miss out on a lot of the inventory that's available because that person doesn't have the relationships that a realtor who's been doing this for a while and who's done some luxury work is going to have. So it's really important. A less experienced agent is also going to be less discerning. They've done less deals and potentially need the money more. So ideally, you want an agent who's got some success under their belt, and their kids aren't starving, right? They're not like, oh my God, I got to get this. I'm just always these dollar signs. Got to get this house sold, because there's real money involved here. And the last thing you want is someone who's not your advocate, someone who sees dollar signs, is just trying to get a commission. You want someone who has plenty of margin. And if you don't buy a house today, that's not a problem. We can go out next week. We'll take as long as we need. Sometimes these processes are months or years long. You want someone who's going to stay with you, build a relationship, and give you great advice, and not just, kind of sell you on something that you don't really want. That's really, really important. And then the other thing is the process is different. Oftentimes the listing agents are at the property with you when you're showing the home. That doesn't sound like a big deal, but it can be. So if you're not used to doing this, you're used to showing buyers homes where there's no listing agent present, which is most of the time in lower dollar homes. And now here's this listing agent whose whole job it is to sell you on why you should buy that house. They're not representing you, they're representing the seller. It takes a little bit of charm and charisma to handle that well and say, hey, great, so happy you're here. Why don't you give us a very quick understanding of what's going on, the features, the things that we might not understand immediately. Let's get the fountains turned on and the fireplace going and all that stuff. But we don't need you to follow us room by room telling us why this is the greatest house on the planet. That's just annoying. It's no fun. It ruins the experience. So you need someone who's got some strength of character and who's done this before to go, this is the benefit of having the listing agent there. We have somebody answer questions and turn all the stuff on, make sure it looks great. But we don't need that person just following us around like a hungry salesperson. So the process is different. All said, it's just so important to get an agent who knows their stuff, who's sold some luxury homes, and who has your best interest at heart. They're really going to serve you really well. So those are my 5 tips for things that you should absolutely avoid when you're purchasing a luxury home. I hope they've been very helpful to you. Please do reach out if you're interested in purchasing a luxury home. We would love to help you have that first conversation, see if we're a good fit, and see if we can serve you. So just reach out to us, shoot us a message, or you can call us anytime at 480-378-6700. Thanks so much.